The low interactivity setup is the one most suitable for teaching in what might be called a traditional mode. Interactions and exchanges are limited and occur mainly between the teacher and individual students, who are expected to listen carefully, take notes, and respond to questions or brief activities initiated by the teacher. This model is applied without significant differences in both small to medium-sized classrooms and large classrooms. In this setup, the spaces and furniture are characterized by a very high level of rigidity. Desks and seats are often fixed to the floor, thereby limiting the possibilities for group interaction. From a hardware and software support perspective, this setup refers to the basic minimum equipment, such as network connection, projection, web conferencing platforms, audio system, and so on. And teachers can only rely on the use of student response systems, which allow them to quickly engage the classroom and create reinforcement activities between lessons. Contrary to what one might think when talking about educational innovation, this setup is neither outdated nor unworthy of attention. In many situations, the context, the characteristics of both teacher and student, as well as the intended learning outcomes, actually call for this type of approach, lecture-based and transmissive. Let's now take a look at how to use the Smart Learning Design method to design and enhance this setup. Courses that reflect the low interactivity lecture-based setup are primarily focused on collecting low interactivity content, sometimes supplemented with retrieval activities to support the memorization of new content. Let's now look at which elements can be leveraged to enhance the effectiveness of these learning events within the low interactivity lecture-based instructional set. As for the collection of low interactivity content, during the design phase, it is important to adopt all useful strategies to facilitate content comprehension. For example, it is helpful to structure the lesson into multiple segments, each ending with a recap phase, thereby applying the so-called chunking strategy. Then, selecting the narrative structure that is most suitable and consistent with the context. For example, when introducing a new topic, you can start with something concrete, such as a hands-on experiment or the observation of a case, a question, a problem, or something similar. We can also present many concrete examples drawn from different contexts and help students move from the case to the underlying theory, and vice versa, revisiting this transition multiple times and in both directions. It can also be helpful to prepare supporting materials that highlight the main concepts and the structure of the content, incorporating both textual and visual information that are related to each other whenever possible. In this way, students are encouraged to engage in a dual coding process that aids memory retention and makes it easier to recall that concept from memory. In cases where one does not wish to radically change the course structure and there is no room to introduce structured group activities, the lecturer can support the learning process by proposing brief student activations. It is not necessary to design long or complex activities. Even short activities lasting just a few minutes distributed throughout the lesson are sufficient. What matters is that they are designed in close connection with the lesson. Short activities help reactivate students' attention, stimulate cognitive engagement, and encourage an initial transformation and appropriation of the content, highlight the crucial aspects of the topic being presented, prompt students to make connections between concrete elements such as examples, case studies, or experiments and theoretical aspects, and identify misleading perceptions or misunderstood elements. To these, retrieval activities can be added in actions of recall and consolidation, distributed throughout the course. For example, at the beginning of a lesson, students can be asked to answer quizzes on the content from the previous lesson. The quizzes that can be proposed may be multiple choice or hybrid, meaning they alternate between open-ended and multiple choice questions. Or again, students can be asked to test themselves on topics covered a few lessons earlier. The effort that students must make to answer an open-ended question or a quiz on topics covered some time ago actually helps to strengthen memory traces and promote the creation of connections between old information and the new material they are about to hear or read. The opportunity to frequently and regularly test one's memory and preparation also provides each student with individual feedback and a chance to evaluate their own learning process and implement adjustments. These strategies prove effective in both synchronous settings, whether in person or online. In fact, In many cases, it can even be advantageous to move some lessons online to optimize travel time for both the lecturer and the students, as well as the physical use of classrooms. How then can the digital dimension support us in asynchronous activities? In this context, the lesson time is primarily focused on the student collecting information and content. The activities that can be proposed outside of the synchronous session, whether in person or online, should aim to activate the memorization and processing of the gathered information and support retrieval, which would otherwise be left to the individual's responsibility, in order to lay the foundation for a more effective achievement of the course's learning outcomes. Digital tools prove valuable in this case as well, as they assist with automatic test correction and with monitoring students' progress.